Welcome to Lonely Trail Leatherworks. Today we'll be making a leather gun stock cover. So to start with, we'll measure from the hand grip to however long you want it to be, and then from the top of the stock down to however far down you want it to cover. So for this pattern, I'm just doing it on some pattern paper, just kind of made it up as I went along. So to start out with, I made a center line, and then for my measurements, I found that the total length for the back end would be 9 inches. So then just did 4.5 to the center line and 4.5 on the other side. So hopefully this isn't confusing, but the way I'm drawing this pattern is as shown up above. And then, but when it actually goes on the gun, it goes like in the second picture. So hopefully that'll make it less confusing. So I drew part of a square to help make sure everything's straight and squared up. And then mainly I'm going to be working just on the right side of the center line. So from the center line at the top, 3 inches. And then at the bottom, like I said before, is 4.5. And then I'm going to connect those to make our angle. And then I always try to write down my measurements so that saves time later. For where the loops are going to go, I mark 1 inch from the top and then 1 inch from the bottom. So then the center line for our cartridge loops came down from the center line about 1.5 inches, and then connected those. Then for the lace holes, went 1/2 inch in from top and bottom and connected those. And then for the first holes from the top and from the bottom, 1/2 inch on that line. And then down and up from those holes, 1.5 inches, and then the middle one I just centered between the other 4. So the strap for the cartridge loops is also 3 to 4 inch, or excuse me, 3 to 4 ounce leather, 1 inch wide. And so each cartridge is going to be a little bit different. So this is for a 243. So the way it measured out, I measured the width of the cartridge, and that was 5/8, so that's what I marked on the pattern. So this, for this cartridge, there's room for 8 cartridge loops. So I'll mark that on the pattern. So, like I said before, each cartridge is a little bit different. So to figure out how long each loop needs to be for punching the holes, I do this with my squares and kind of basically make a loop and use the rulers of where the stitch lines would be. And so get that where it feels like how tight you'd want the cartridge to be. Then take it back out and then measure between where we had the rulers. And so for the 243 and 3 to 4 ounce leather, it's 1.25 inches. So mark 1.25 inches for however many loops. For in this case, there'll be 8 loops, so I just marked it 8 times, and then we'll see later, as I actually mark it after I dye it. So now for punching the holes for attaching our cartridge loop strap, I'm using a 4-prong flat stitching chisel from Weaver, and it fits just in between the marks we made from our pattern, so that worked out. And I've also used a diamond chisel set, but I like flat chisel because it's a little bit easier to sew and goes a little bit faster. So I'm just marking in between my marks every 5/8. Now for the strap, I just cut a decent length, and then, like I said earlier in the video, every 1.25 inch go and mark, and we're gonna have room for 8 cartridges, so I just did 1.25 inch spacings 8 times. And then for the ends, I didn't leave enough space on the pattern to do a rivet, and so I decided just to do 1/2 inch and then do a round end punch, and it actually didn't create much of a flap at all, so it's not going to catch anything, and it actually looks pretty good without the rivet, so I just went with that. So now I'm just with the same 4-prong chisel, just centering it on the strap on my lines every 1.25 inch. And once we get all those punched, then it's on to sewing. for stitching. So a lot of times when the people make these with machines, they'll stitch across the loop, then fold it back, and then diagonally stitch to where the next loop goes. And I did that when I did the one with the diamond chisels. I did that where I punched diagonally and sewed diagonally before each loop, and it works, and you know, it looked fine, and it saved from having to stop and tie a knot every time. And I'm sure you could do the same thing with the flat chisel, but with the diamond chisel it was a bit tedious because the holes were smaller, and with the diamond chisel you have to, you know, to get that pattern, the slanted pattern with the thread and all that, it took longer. So I didn't do that with this, plus I had a lot of smaller pieces of scrap thread from other projects, and I thought, you know, use these up just a short distance. And so I didn't do the diagonal on this, but either if you want to just do one long piece of thread, and so you don't have to stop and tie a knot every time, or like I'm showing here, just sewing for each loop, that's up to you. But either way, it works and looks nice. 1, So I forgot to video it, but I glued a suede lining onto the gunstock cover with some contact cement, and then just let it sit overnight. And so suede, I found, is hard to cut to match up perfectly. You know, like if you glue two pieces of leather together and then cut them, and then you can sand it. Suede, it doesn't really seem you can sand a whole lot, so you just gotta cut as closely as you can. But this will give it a bit more grip and add to the thickness of it, because 3 to 4 ounce isn't super heavy, so I wanted it to be a little bit heavier. So, after stitching it together and then burnishing the edges, the suede won't burnish, but the top piece, the veg tan will, so burnish the edges. Now gotta punch the holes where the suede lining is covered from the back, so repunch those. And then just got a piece of lace, and then we just lace it however you'd like to lace it under the gun.